Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to News Dose. And if you thought Sony's leadership just couldn't get any worse this generation, well, I got news for you. Buckle up, because we just got some information that truly makes PlayStation's situation just that much more frustrating for fans. Honestly, I feel like if this would have played out differently, then PlayStation would be firing on all cylinders right now, instead of this just very slow rollout in terms of first party. So we're gonna get into all of that today, plus plenty more. First, though, I do want to thank my supporters on Patreon and on YouTube memberships. You all are just absolutely awesome for what you do, and you will receive this video through early access. Let's just go and get right into things, though, starting off with the newest Yakuza entry being Like a Pirate. This game has kind of been marked as Sega will do what Ubisoft won't. You know, they'll give us a legitimate single-player pirate adventure and not just some weird live service game that nobody's asking for. But the main question still remains: is Yakuza Like a Pirate actually good? Well, reviews came in today, and it currently has a 79 on Metacritic and an 81 on OpenCritic. Now, I'd say this is a fairly solid score, all things considered, albeit a little bit lower than what RGG has produced these past few years. I believe it's actually their lowest reviewed Yakuza game since Yakuza 4, which received a 78. However, from what I understand, keep in mind I have not played this game yet, but Like a Pirate is still a fun spin-off with some fun new ideas. However, its writing might not necessarily be as great as some of their more recent entries. So I'd say, if anything, I think that if you like the Yakuza series, I know I very much do, then you'll probably enjoy Like a Pirate, but it might not necessarily go down as the best the series has to offer, which I don't think most of us were expecting anyways. Now, here's a game that was revealed at last week's PlayStation State of Play that we really didn't get all that much information about. It's Digimon Story Time Stranger, and I do have a bit of a soft spot for the Digimon series. So I want to know more about this game, especially considering it's marked at $70. I feel like that's going to be a little bit of a tough sell for a lot of people. You know, Digimon's not the biggest franchise in the world, especially in the year of 2025. Their games have also been very mixed in terms of quality, but hopefully, if anything here, $70 is a sign that they're putting a lot of effort into it. Well, they'll soon get a chance to prove its price tag here soon enough, because apparently they have a Digimon Con planned for March 20th, and if you look at the content that's expected to be there, you'll notice that it mentions latest updates on Digimon Story Time Stranger set to release in 2025. So hopefully we'll get some gameplay and a release date. Being a Digimon fan myself, and just kind of knowing that their games tend to be a little bit mixed in terms of quality, I'm crossing my fingers that this will be a good entry. I will say that I really like the Digimon Cyber Sleuth series, so if they can just kind of improve on that formula, then I definitely think this will be worth tuning into. Oh, and Xbox, they announced a few new Game Pass games. You can see here where they revealed F1 24, Watch Dogs Legions, and Warhammer Rogue Trader. Now, even though they didn't include it on this card here, Avowed also just launched today, and I'd say that's really the true spotlight for February. You know, that's their new first-party RPG developed by Obsidian Entertainment. I know there's been a lot of build-up to its release just considering Obsidian's reputation. So, I mean, I'd say if you like them, or if you just like RPGs, then do make sure to check that one out as well. It just released today on February 18th. Now, if you want my more in-depth opinion about Avowed, I actually reviewed it a few days ago. Go check that video out. But other than that, I think this is a rather, I'll just say, tame wave of games for Xbox Game Pass. Okay, so let's go talk about PlayStation, or more specifically about their leadership and just the downright terrible decisions that they've made for the PlayStation 5. I mean, we can talk all day long about their sales numbers and how things are currently looking up for them. Okay, that's all nice and everything, but I don't credit Sony's current leadership for that. I think a lot of their current success has a lot to do with their past success and just their historical reputation to deliver great games. PlayStation consoles are a go-to platform for a lot of people out there, and, you know, it also helps that Xbox has just kind of given up in terms of competing. But when I really, truly look at the decisions that Jim Ryan and Herman Hulst has made, I'm just taken aback by how truly awful they've been. I mean, these are the decision makers behind 12 live service games, 10 of which have been canceled. These are the decision makers that decided that Concord and Fair Games are the future of gaming. And so much so that they needed to acquire these studios to lock them down. These are the same decision makers that decided that Bungie is worth a multi-billion-dollar buyout. I mean, I can go on and on and on about all of the just questionable decisions that Sony has made under the command of Jim Ryan and Herman Hulst. I will say it right now, these two have been awful for PlayStation gamers. But if their decisions weren't already bad enough, well, it somehow just got even worse, because check this out. The beloved Shu Yoshida, in an interview, revealed quite a shocking revelation. Back in 2019, he surprised gamers when he stepped down as president of SIE Worldwide Studios to lead Sony's indie initiative. Now, to be fair here, Yoshida seemed passionate about indies, which, that shouldn't come as a surprise. He's always had a knack for creative games. But this was also right around the same time as to when former PlayStation boss Shawn Layden left the company. So here you have two key members for the PlayStation 4 generation, two key members that made that generation special. They were both impacted back in 2019. So there was always some speculation about an internal power struggle within Sony. And now Yoshida has essentially confirmed that even more. But I think it's even more frustrating than what anybody even realized at the time. This comes from an interview where he talked about his shift over to independent games. He said, moving from first party to indies, well, I had no choice. When Jim Ryan asked me to do the indie job, the choice was to do that or to leave the company. I mean, that is actually sickening to hear. Just the disrespect that requires to do something like that to a key person that helped the company get in the position that they're currently in. I mean, when all's said and done, yes, the PlayStation 5 very well may end up being a great selling PlayStation console. Again, their reputation is incredible, and for a good reason, partly because of people like Yoshida. But at the rate Sony is currently going in, this generation will not be remembered as Sony's best first-party offering. Far from it, possibly, and that's because of decisions like this. I mean, there is a very real outcome that if Yoshida and Shawn Layden would have remained in charge, that there would have never been this big push for live service games. Yoshida himself even said that he probably wouldn't have done that. So I think from a PlayStation fan's perspective, if he would have remained in control, you do have to kind of wonder if they would have had a more consistent pipeline of games ready, which would have included more creative titles rather than just these big AAA blockbusters that takes like 6, 7, 8 years to develop. There's also a very real possibility that Japan Studio would still be around and, that we wouldn't be talking about 10 live service flops because we didn't even get to play most of those games. So leadership is important, and yeah, I mean, Jim Ryan, he truly did do a number on PlayStation's first-party catalog. I mean, I'm optimistic that their new leadership will, get things back on track, but game development takes a long time. So just like Jim Ryan was able to take credit for Shawn Layden and Yoshida's work for his first few years, those are the games that they greenlit. Well, now we also have to kind of endure his poor decisions for these next few years with the likes of games such as Fair Games. These are games that him and Herman Hulst greenlit. So it might take a little while before they get back on track, but I think this entire story really is telling that there was truly a power struggle within PlayStation, and Jim Ryan really did mess things up by pushing out some of the key members that made that PS4 generation just so special. Now, we also got an update from Nintendo that has people speculating that they are going to shift over to $70 games for the Switch 2 generation. Now, personally, I think it's more likely than not that's exactly what's going to happen. But what's happening here is that Nintendo updated their policy for Nintendo vouchers. Now, Nintendo's been offering these vouchers since 2019, and it's basically a way for them to bundle 2 Nintendo Switch games at a discounted price. Instead of paying $120 for 2 individual games, you can instead get these vouchers and pay $100. However, Nintendo recently updated their policy to not include Switch 2 games. You can read it here where it says, "Please note that Nintendo Switch game vouchers cannot be redeemed for Nintendo Switch 2 exclusive games." Now, the reason that they're letting fans know this now is because you can pre-order games with these vouchers. So obviously they don't want consumers to buy these vouchers with the idea that they can use them for Switch 2 games. But that does bring up a very important question. Why can't we use these vouchers for Switch 2 games? And the likely reason for that is because Switch 2 games potentially won't come in at the same price. They could very well end up being more expensive. And I think that that's a fair prediction to make. I mean, Nintendo has already experimented with the $70 price tag anyways. Zelda Tears of the Kingdom launched at $70, and yeah, I mean, it sold more than 20 million copies, so I'm sure that probably convinced Nintendo that at the very least, they could mark up some of their games at that higher price tag. So yeah, I think there's a likely chance that $70 games will be a lot more common on the Switch 2. Let's go take a look at the poll of the day, though, where I asked you all, do you think Grand Theft Auto 6 will come to PC in early 2026 as Corsair Gaming claimed? And the majority of you are definitely pressing X for doubt when it comes to this. And I mean, I can't really blame you. I choose to be optimistic about this, but historically, Rockstar does like to take their time with their PC ports. So what I'll just kind of say here is that if anything else, you all are prepared by tempering your expectations. You know, you're not going to be disappointed if this news turns out to be wrong. So that's probably a good thing, all things considered. And, you know, if it does happen, well, then that just means that we get a nice, pleasant surprise. Anyways, though, that's going to be it for this episode. But until next time, make sure to subscribe, ring that bell, and peace out.